Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time it is wherever you are. Here it's just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon on, I think it's Wednesday. And one day's pretty much like another out here, so it don't really matter. But anyway, I said I was going to do a trapping video. And like a lot of grand ideas, a trapping video is about as useless as tits on a boar hog. So we're going to back up and do a couple of trapping videos. And otherwise, it'd be on here for 4 hours straight, and neither one of us would care for that. So for today, we're going to kind of start out going over trapping equipment. And again, like anything in my videos, it's stuff that I have, that I've used, or I know about. Or in the case of these double long spring beaver traps, which we'll get to in a minute, something I bought just in case I might ever need them, because there's easier ways to trap beaver than these. Anyway, we're going to turn this picture around here, and I'll show you some of what we need. Okay, this is a pack basket, and it's my pack basket, and I've had it for 15, 16 years. And when you get them, they're not that dark color, but when you get them, they also, unless you put some linseed oil on them, they're not going to last very long. And so what I do is I take linseed oil and cut it half with mineral oil, or you use acetone, anything like that. And but just cut it in half and brush it on, let it dry, brush it on, let it dry, and then put your straps back on. But a trap basket like this is just worth its weight in gold. And now we're going to move over here to the traps. Now this is the dreaded double long spring beaver trap. And hang it just a second here, see if I can do this without putting the phone down. That's about how big it is when it's set up. Now I got number 11 foot, so you can see about how big this thing is. And so it's going to run about 2.5, 3 feet. You put that underwater where you see a beaver's been climbing out of the stream or the lake or whatever. Put that underneath the water about 4 inches, where he's going to catch his back foot in it. You don't want him to catch your front foot in it if you can help it. But you want their back foot in it, and you'll have that round end, will have a slide wire going through it. And one end's tied to a stake in the bank or a tree, the other end's tied to a weight out in the water. And that beaver will hit that trap and slide down that rope, because his idea of getting away safe is in the water. And between the weight of the trap and the weight on the end of that slide wire is going to keep him under the water and let him drown quietly. And that's the best way to kill a beaver like that. This here is a little number 1 trap. And it's a coil spring. You got long springs and you got coil springs. This one takes up a lot less room, and they work a little bit faster. And later on we'll get into setting them. Now next here we have a number 2 double long spring. Whoops. Hell, you got me again. There you go. Number 2 double long spring. And there's your beaver trap. sitting right next to it. and your number 2 double long spring. Now that, you can catch coyotes with that, or big raccoons. I wouldn't go much with anything else with it. This is an antique here. It's been retired from use, but I used it for years. And it's called a stop loss. This little spring here, it fits over the top of the jaws. When you set it, it makes like when the animal, usually a muskrat or a mink, steps on it, on that little pan there, it'll release the spring, which opens up, and it'll throw this wire spring over the top of his leg so he can't pull it out or get to it to chew his foot off. And then you have my go-to trap for raccoons and fox and small coyotes, which is about all I actually trap. This is number 1.5 Duke's coil spring, and we'll get to know that little fella better. Now, different parts of a trap. This part on the bottom is the base, and you have your 2 coil springs. Some have 2, some have 4. Come here, where are you? This is the trigger, and these are the jaws. And these levers here are how you set your trap to control the springs. Now, what we don't want to do is accidentally set that off. Now, over here we have some different kind of traps. These are called conibear traps. They were invented up in Canada by a man named Conibear, and he didn't like the idea. I see we're going to have to do some film editing. He didn't like the idea of animals laying in a trap overnight before he could get back to them and that. He figured this would be a way more humane way to dispatch animals. You catch them and kill them at the same time. You have these 2 really big springs on the ends, and there's a trigger in the middle. That's what those 2 wires hanging down are. Animal comes through there, hits the trigger, the springs pop loose, and this square box slams shut on his neck and chest and instantly dispatches them. Now, that's a 220 there. That's good for raccoons, and well, that's all I ever use it for anyway. And I suppose if you get a fox to stick his head in there, you can use it for that, but I've never caught one with it. I usually catch them in the 1.5 foot old traps. And this big boy here, come here, that's a Beaver Trap. That's a 330. And as far as I know, there's no state that you can use these where it isn't at least half underwater, because these will kill any domestic dogs. I don't care what kind of dog it is. Even our Italian Mastiff would go down in this. And same thing with a little kid. So you just don't want to mess with that. And over here, you have a bag of marshmallows. That's my favorite raccoon trap. And there's trap wire. That's for tying your traps down to a tree or to the stakes if you're using a single stake. These are safety setters for those big beaver traps. And when you go to set these, if that thing goes off, it's going to hurt. So you put these safeties on it. These little film canisters over here, I like to put bait in them when I'm doing the dirt hole set. And that works really good for me. As long as you keep them all the way underground, they can't be exposed to where an animal could see it and be attracted to it. And because it ain't natural. And it might attract hawks or whatever. This little pan that it's in, let's get some of the stuff out of it here. That little pan is a dirt pan, and it's a sifting pan. When you dig a hole for your to bed your trap in, you don't put your dirt in this and then shake it over the top of the trap, and you'll understand it better when we're doing it a couple of videos from now. But that's basically the first round of equipment we're going to cover today. And this stuff is some Trapper Arts coyote gland lure. And we'll put some of that out later on and see how long it takes a dog to find it. And trouble is, before you start trapping, you gotta start thinking. You have to think about is, do you have kids or dogs, cats, chickens, other stuff running around out in the yard? Because whenever you set a trap, it's your responsibility for what it catches. Now, most people call these long springs and coil springs, we call them leg hold traps. And it's really kind of a bad name for them, because you don't want to catch an animal up on its leg. What you want to do, just catch it across right about there, right across its palm. And that way, the animal normally, when it's trapped, is going to struggle like crazy to get out for a minute. And when it sees it can't, it's going to rest. And if you set your trap right, they ain't going to be able to gnaw their foot off. And when you trap an animal across its paw, they're not going to lose circulation in anything above where that trap jaw is. So they're still going to have feeling in there. And if you catch an animal halfway up its forearm and that lower part of its arm is numb, then it will chew it off. And if it's got a broken arm, all it's got to do is chew through the meat, and it don't feel it anyway because it's numb, and he can pull it off. But you catch him across the paw, and I've never had one do that yet. And I have caught them by the toes sometimes when I had my trap set right. And pull out when I come up to them. But usually when you come up to an animal, a fox or a coyote, they're just laying there waiting for you, you know. Come up and, well, the old deal is take a trap stake and whack them in the back of the head with it, but I just figured there's too much chance of me hurting it, so I just walk up with my pistol and carry a .22 pistol with me, and nick him in the head with that. It's a lot cleaner, a lot quicker, and the animal don't suffer. Now, a lot of people, they say, oh, trapping is cruel, you know, you're hurting the animal and all all that kind of stuff. Well, probably don't make their day. But if you're a decent person, you don't want to hurt an animal. If you need to use them for food, or you need the leather for clothes and that, you take those animals in the most humane way possible. And you can do an awful lot with animals. But, you know, if you don't like them, you probably shouldn't be trapping. I don't know. There's so much I'd like to say about that, but I'd get on my soapbox. And that wouldn't benefit either one of us. But I have ceremonies that I do and stuff before I go out and do my traps, where I ask animals, you know, for permission to take them, and tell them to discuss among themselves who they want to get took, and tell them to be used and honored, and ain't nothing going to waste. And it don't. And at least not as much as I can help. Now, let's see, over here again. This white box, this white bucket here with the notches in it, that was the back of a raccoon trap. You take this 220 here, and you put it in there. Put it in so that it's, the springs, when it's set, is down there in the slot. And that'll keep, you put a cage over the front of it so that the opening is no more than 7 inches by 7 inches. I think that's what the law says. Might be 7.5. You know, anytime you have to deal with the government, don't skimp on inches. But let's see. Anyway, the whole idea behind those is to keep from catching a lot of dogs. And they do make dog-proof coon traps, and if I ever get one, I'll show you how to use it. But anyway, that's basically the traps we're going to be covering. And I don't use snares. I have some, but I've not used any yet, so not on purpose. So anyway, we're gonna, I see I got 18 minutes on this damn thing already. So we'll clean it up and put it up, try to get it up tonight, and we'll take it on there tomorrow, show you how to work with your traps, and where to get them, and what to look for, and how to adjust them. And all that, you know, there's a little more to this than just, I'm going to go grab a bunch of traps and throw them out in the woods. And there is if you want to catch anything in them anyway. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and thanks for listening. And hit the like and subscribe, and hope to see you soon again.